Right, so hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Expert Talk. My name is Ainav Avni. I'm an energy healer and alignment coach. And with me today in the Expert Talk is Dr. Michelle Greenwell. Michelle, hello, so lovely to have you here.
Oh, hello. It's lovely to be here, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Wonderful. So before we get started, I'm just going to read your bio so we're all on the same page. Here we go. So a lot of letters here. So BA, Psych, MSc, CAM, PhD, CIH, complementary and integrative health. Sorry about my English today. Touch for Health instructor, therapeutic touch registered practitioner. I should ask people to read their own bios when they have so many numbers and letters. Sorry, neuroreflex integration specialist in movements to heal the body with the power of dance and Tai Chi. Tea artist, program developer, author of award-winning publications, including 2 special card decks for energy building and well-being. Wow. Okay, I'm very excited about this talk. We titled that as Balancing Emotions Through the Spine. And with that, Michelle, take it away. Thank you.
Please run with it, right? Thank you for having me. And I'm excited today because I want to share a little bit about some ideas, maybe as we're going into the holidays. We spend more time sitting, more time eating, drinking, staying up late, all those lovely things. And the spine usually actually ends up having more limited motions than it might have in a regular kind of schedule. And so this is a good opportunity to be able to figure out how you can come into awareness about what's going on and maybe change some patterns so that you're building energy through the holidays instead of depleting it as you're celebrating. So what I'm going to invite you to do is figure out where the stress level is in your body at the moment. So it could be by a number. So stress level from 0 to 10, 10 being high, 0 being you haven't got any stress. And if you don't, I want your secret. So what I want you to do is just find that stress level on that scale. But then what I'd like you to do is also notice how you're sitting at the moment. And I'm anticipating most people are sitting, listening to the podcast. So if you are sitting up straight, if you're leaning back in your chair, leaning to one side or the other, maybe you've got your legs crossed, maybe you have your hands crossed. And I just want you to take note of what posture you do have. Each posture tells you something about what's going on in the body and which emotions are at the forefront. So we want to start to play around with what is the body telling us just by how we're sitting. So I'm going to get you to turn your head and look from one side to the other. And I just want you to see, what does it feel like to turn your head and how far can you see? All right. So with that, if it was a little bit different going to each side, then we know we've got a little bit of imbalance running through the spine. And if you felt any pain or anything like that, we're going to see if that disappears by the time we're finished talking. Okay, the next thing I want you to do is take your fingers and pull up on the top of your ears and see if your posture changes. Okay. Everybody looks completely different now. It's lovely. Okay. So what you may have noticed, and I'm going to give myself as an example. I've been on the computer for a long time today. And so my posture went from forward lean into the computer screen into pulling up, but my pelvis shifted, my ribs shifted, the chest lifted, and then my ears kind of went over top of my shoulders, but my chin came up as well. So there was this position like this. That just tells you how much stress is in the system that it's compressing down. And you're holding on to that piece. And what we want to do is get it to where it's nice, lifted, and open. So when you go to pull on those ears, there's actually hardly any movement at all. Okay? So that's what we're going to kind of work our way through. Now what I'd like you to do is just open the chest. So just taking the hands back. See what it feels like in the muscles in the back as they're gripping. And then bring forward your shoulders, your elbows, and just see what that feels like. So it might be a little bit stiff, might be when you get to the back, it might be the muscles are a little bit tight back there. You can feel them gripping. And when you come forward, you might notice it might be a little bit looser. We spend a lot of time compacted this way. So those muscles tend to have an imbalance in some capacity. So just notice what that feels like. And then the last one is, because we're sitting on a chair, I'm just going to do it this way. I just want to notice where you are sitting on your sit bone and your tailbone. So if you kind of think of it like a triangle, you've got the tailbone would be my fingers are there. And then you've got the 2 points of the triangle up at the top here, which would be your sit bones. So you've got the sit bones, and you would notice what that feels like where the weight is. But then you have the tailbone. So just notice if you're sitting kind of forward into it, or maybe you're sitting backwards and you're leaning back into the chair and you're actually even curling on the tailbone and just arching back to it. So I just want you to notice what that feels like. And there's a sweet spot between those points. So between the tailbone and the sit bones, what I want you to do is see if you can find the soft spot in the middle. Now, if there's no stress, it's really fluid. And if it's like you rock back and forth and it's a little stiff, then we know we've got some tension going on in the hip. All right, so just to notice what that feels like. Okay, so what we want to do is play around with all this. One last check. Just take your hand up over the top, see what it feels like to do that. Which muscles kind of open and bring awareness. So you might notice some of the muscles in the armpit or the ribs, and then you just might notice how far you could take your hand, and maybe you have a shoulder that's a little bit stiffer. You might not be able to get it moving equally on both sides, but just to notice that. Okay, so we've got all those little ways of noticing about our body. Now let's find out what's going on. So what I want to do is just make a change first so you can see how easy it could be. So you could rub same hand as ear, or you can go opposite, whichever you like. Just to not cover up my microphone, I'm going to use the same hand as my ear. I'm just going to unroll the ear from the top to the bottom, down to the earlobe. And then go back up, go just a little bit deeper into the ear, and you're going to kind of pull out to where you rolled it, and then come all the way down to the bottom. And then we're going to go a little bit deeper and just pull that till you get to the bottom. All right, so now you'll notice that your ear, it'll turn red, but also heat up. And we have actually woken up all the systems in the body just by doing that. So let's try the other side. So we're just going to unroll the ear from this side down to the bottom and go a little bit deeper in, just pulling out. This is great if you're a traveler. Maybe for Christmas you are traveling. You can actually bring your body clock back to what the time is and avoid some jet lag. So if you just pay attention to what time it is wherever you are, since we're coming from all over North America and into Europe, so whatever time zone you're in, you could just think about that time zone. This will help bring you on to what time your body clock should be on. Okay, so you've felt that piece. Both ears will now be red, but you'll feel the heat. So now what I want you to do is just turn your head and see what it feels like to turn, and see if there's a change in the range of motion, and if you changed how far you can see. So for those that are on the call today, if you want to do a thumbs up if there was an increase in range of motion. If there was nothing, you could just leave it there. And if went backwards, you can just put your thumb down. So we have thumbs up and one that's going across. Okay, awesome. Now what we want to do is we want to change a little bit more. So I'm going to bring in, Inav mentioned about my card deck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in an affirmation, and I'm also going to bring in some intentions and a piece of art. So the card deck is called The Affirmations for the Body in the Biofield. And I'm just showing you the front cover. Those people who might be listening and don't actually see the video portion, There's like a ribbon of color on the front, which has all the colors of the rainbow in it. And it's called Mother and Child. So it's how we're nurturing ourselves and how we take care. And what I'm using is the card deck that has to do with the spine. So this is affirmations for the spine. And I've pulled up cervical 5. So this would be in the middle of the neck. And I'm just going to bring this piece of artwork forward for you. So we've got, for those people listening, we've got green and yellow. It almost looks like a column, almost like a tree trunk. And then we have these white dots or orbs. Some people refer to them as orbs. And from here, it almost looks, we're close to Christmas, almost looks like we've got a smiling elf with a nose and a heart-shaped mouth. So we can just bring some of these ideas in, any ideas that pop into your mind just because I put the artwork up. So now what I invite you to do, having brought this up, cervical 5 is in the middle of the neck. I'd like you to just turn the head and see if there's been any change just by the introduction of the art. All right. Thank you, Pamela. Is that not amazing? Just by bringing in the right frequency, because this is a piece of art that's got some different intentions in it, we were able to make a change. So here's the affirmation that goes with it. We have the ability to choose. If we do not take the opportunity, we've made a choice. And that decision is ours. And it's the note of G. So if this made a difference, then the note of G might decide you want to put on a piece of music, sing along. Maybe it's in the key of G. You can go over to the piano, hit the note, maybe hum, and just bring in that frequency along with it. Okay, so that's one piece. Now cervical 5, I'm just going to bring up my other charts here. Cervical 5 has to do with the stomach meridian. It's on the earth element. And this is where we digest emotions. So if the neck tends to be a little bit on the stiffer side, sometimes we just haven't actually digested some of the things we've been working on. And it's a good idea then to just take a few moments and just allow the body to process. So how would we do that? You could do it by putting your fingertips really lightly on your forehead. I was going to say, Inav, you could have an appointment with Inav and work on it. But in the meantime, you can take your fingertips and put them on your forehead and take a nice deep breath in and then let that go. As you do that, you might notice that the body starts to relax a little bit. And what I usually notice is I start to move from being forward on my sit bones back towards my tailbone, which is now putting me into the sweet spot that I couldn't find because of the tension. Okay, so Heidi's nodding her head. Okay, beautiful. All right, we'll just do another breath here. And then let that go. Sweet. Okay, really simple, but now you can start to feel how the stress is starting to leave the structure of the body. So now I invite you to turn your head, see if there's been any additional changes. So just take a look, see how far you can see. Heidi, was that a little bit different? The neck's about the same, but you're smiling because I know there was something shifted in the rest of the body. Perfect, perfect. And I have a very stiff neck because I think I spent too much time at the computer today, and I actually can rotate my head right back, which I could not do when we started. So even that much has happened just from that little tiny bit. Okay, can we keep going? Everybody's okay? Okay, so what I'd like you to do is take your hand now and just put it up over top. And with that little change that we've done, so we rubbed the ear, we did ESRs, emotional stress release, breathing, and we added some art. Did you notice when your arm went up that it either went up a little bit quicker or you didn't notice the same muscles as you noticed the first time? Perfect. So Renee's nodding her head. Okay, so what happens is we start to integrate the tissue and it's no longer working separately. Now it's coming in and working as a wholeness. And that's what you want, because that means the body doesn't have to work so hard in its individual parts trying to get the same result. It can work together. Okay, perfect. So now let's play with the next piece, which is thoracic 5. So we're going to go to the middle of the back. And I had asked you to open the chest, feel what the muscles felt like in the back, and then close up the chest and notice what that felt like. Do you want to check in and just see if that's shifted just from what we've done so far? So you're just going to open up and then close, bringing the arms forward. Okay, so a little bit more fluid than that first time. Okay, so now what I'm going to invite you to do is take a look at thoracic 5. So this is the piece of art that's related to it. And the artwork is actually photographs of nature here in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. It's been run through filters, and my lovely co-author on this, Tanya Levy, created these amazing images. So I'm going to give you the affirmation at the same time, and it's the note of G. So we have the same note as before. Seek what you wish to find, and your focus will lead the way. So sometimes somebody had commented about trying to be grounded today. I understand that completely, because everybody's getting, the stress level just keeps rising in society. So it's going up. And so just trying to ground all of that. So if you can focus on what your outcome is, then you have the opportunity to shift what's going to come your way, rather than bringing in everybody else's chaos with you. Okay, so now that we've got that piece of art, do you want to open those shoulders back up again and see if there's been a change in how the body's functioning now? So you're just going to take and open that back and then come forward. See how that feels. Okay, Eniv's nodding. Better. Okay, fabulous. So again, it's just with a piece of art. It's not just a piece of art, but you have this opportunity to connect in with an image, with the intentions that are within the image, and then you've got the affirmation. And so easily we can make a change, shift our focus, and be ready to go again. Okay, so with that, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a spine rotation exercise, because at Christmas, as we go to sit at the table, do lots of talking, we'll be leaning on the table, we'll be sometimes looking in the same direction for long periods of time if we're talking to somebody sideways, and that can be really stiff or holding for the body. So I'm just going to get you to imagine you have a ball in front of your hands. You're going to just capture that ball and just hold it in front of you. I'm bringing my hands up a little higher just because of the way the camera is. But if you put your arms so your hands are in line with your elbow, it'll be out in front of you. Mine's just going to be a little bit higher. And if you pull the arms forward so you can feel the shoulder blades engage, from that position, I just want you to fill that ball with whatever colors you like. So it could be a rainbow, a picture. And you might notice all of a sudden that the fingertips start to tingle. All right. And with that, now I'm going to invite you to take that ball and move it towards your left knee. And you're just going to center over you'll be in front of the knee, but centered over that left side. And then you're just going to take it back over to the right side, and you'll be over top of the right knee. And then we come back across to the left. So it's a small movement. All we need to do is inspire the parts of the spine. We don't need them to move too far. Turn to the other side. Come back to the center. Move over to the left. Come back over to the right. And then if you come back to the center, feel that ball. You might notice that your hands have heated up. You might notice that there's more energy actually going down your arms. And you might notice the rest of the body's heated up too. So now we have a choice. We've cultivated this lovely ball of energy. We can offer it out to the world, in which case we could just turn it and offer it out and expand our hands, or we could turn that ball of energy to us. And if we turn it to us, we have three choices. There's the choices that the cervical 5 was talking about. So the choice is we could go to our lower dantian, which is below the belly button, which is where we build energy and store it. We could come to our heart center, or we could go to our third eye on our forehead. So anywhere you'd like to take that lovely ball of energy, I'm going to invite you to do it. If you turn it to yourself, just let it absorb by itself. So if I was to come to my heart center as an example, I'm just going to suggest towards me, and then I'm just going to let the body respond. So I'm not forcing it in, I'm just offering. And in that offering, it's gentle and soft. And when the hands feel like all that energy has been transferred, you can just bring the hands back around. Okay. Exactly. Shaking it up a little bit. Yeah. So for those that are listening, Enev was trying to move her spine around and reposition. Exactly that. I was at a concert and I was lucky enough, I was observing. I did the introduction at the beginning, and then I stepped to the back and I was watching the people sitting, and I was just watching. I wasn't really thinking about too much, but the concert started and the musicians were playing in certain keys because we had set up this performance to help unwind trauma. And so as they worked their way through each piece, they were just playing music. I was watching all the people sitting in the chairs, and the fidgeting started and the positions changed, and then they turned their heads. And we sometimes think that we're just being a little bit anxious in our seat or fidgety, but it's not. The body was actually trying to reposition itself, and it was trying to move itself where it needed to go. So it was really interesting to watch, because people came in, they kind of sunk back in their chairs, and by the end of the concert, everybody was sitting up and attentive and ready to go, which was really cool. So if you do that fidgety piece, then you can know your body's trying to adjust, it's trying to find a new place, and you can just go with it. Okay, so let's see where we at now. So if you take your fingers to the top of your ears, give a little tug, and there might be a slight adjustment, but it looks like from the group that's here, there wasn't much that needed to move. Is that true? Sweet. So we've taken a whole bunch of stress out of the system, and we've provided the space, spine, to lift us up and hold us in the right position. And we only did that with a couple little tools, which is so great. Okay, so let's check a couple more things. Find your sit bone and your tailbone, that triangle, and see if you are now sitting between those 2 points, kind of in the center of the triangle. Okay, so Heidi's saying she's got it. Lovely. That is the sweet spot. So when we're sitting, if we can get into that position, all the joints in our body can relax. If there's that slight bit of eagerness, that's usually me sitting forward, then you've got that pressure forward on the pelvis. And if you're leaning back, then you're usually shutting off the tailbone and shutting off cerebral spinal fluid running up to the brain. That usually is not flowing as you want it. But you get into that sweet spot, and you can notice the shoulders will drop, the jaw will relax, the head can find the right position, and it has that feel like you could just adjust to anything that's going to happen, rather than the tension of how will I react. Just nice and gentle. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we have that piece. Let's check in with the neck one more time. Turning the head, see if you have a different range of motion now. Lovely. Okay. All right. And when you turn this time, did you notice that your whole belly wanted to turn with you and take you around? Okay. Try again and just check in. So your head's going to turn, obviously, but you may notice that all of a sudden the belly and everything just does a little twist. Okay. Saying feeling like an owl. Yes. What happens as we start to get everything integrated is it's a whole body movement. So when we first started, it was isolated because that's where we were at for function. But now with all the things that we did, we actually created this integration. And so you have all this tissue that helps you turn. And that's going to help create a different range of motion, which is great. Okay, so we've got that piece. So if you open those shoulders again and pull back, check to see if the muscles are cramping as they go back or they just pull back. And then as you go forward, if it feels like it's a balance now between the two. All right. Okay, I love it. Thank you, Heidi, for those smiles. That's wonderful. Okay, then you've got what happens with the hands going up over top, and everybody's hands just like whoop, up and away we go. Perfect. Okay, and we already talked about the pelvis, so we've got those pieces in there. So I just want to give you a couple more things about cervical 5. Now I could go through all the different parts of the spine, but I'm just going to pull these couple little pieces out so you have something to focus on. So cervical 5 up in the middle of the neck is your free will and movement, and it's also how you enjoy things. And the last part is it's the grace to link your daily life to divine. So if you've got that stiff neck happening, you can't really turn all that much, or you're gripping your jaw, maybe holding on tight, you can see how enjoyment could drop and your possibilities in your mind that there's other things you could be doing, and that free will option. So that's when you have the list is too long, I didn't get this done, all these people are, interrupting me and I can't get to where I want to go. And those are the thoughts that they creep in, and it's because of how that spine is functioning, and it's just holding it differently. So you can now think about, well, maybe I could rub my ears then, and then I could help that. Or I could put my fingertips on the forehead, take some deep breaths and just let everything calm. Or I could find that piece of art that's going to help it. So if we go to thoracic 5, between the shoulder blades is clarity. When it's out of balance, we have despair and worry. And when we don't get the lists done every day, we worry about the things we missed. We worry about how much time we have. So all those pieces will start to interrupt our visionary goals. And what we really want to bring ourselves to is having grace with divine love to daily life. So there's an interaction between C5 and thoracic 5, cervical 5 and thoracic 5, because they're both about how we interact with ourselves and with our purpose and with the way that we interact with whom we call God or the divine or the universe, and that piece of how do we fit in the big picture. Okay, so with that now, just take a notice in how you feel. Maybe you've had a couple thoughts come into your mind. Maybe you're now aware of body parts that are feeling a little looser. You might also have awareness of a couple body parts that haven't been heard because they were out of alignment and other things were taking precedence. And that's just awareness then that there's certainly more you could be doing. So what I walked you through is how to use intention, how to use art and color, how to use simple energy techniques to balance emotions with the spine, and a little bit of movement. My background is in movement, and Inav did suggest there at the beginning with my bio, dance and Tai Chi are the two ways that I love to engage with movement, as well as bringing the energy tools in. And I have my resources are up on YouTube. There's many videos that you can check, which is at Michelle Greenwell. And otherwise, I am going to open it up for questions or observations. I'm happy to hear whatever your experience was. And thank you for participating and trying everything.
Wow, Michelle. That's been incredible. I enjoyed it, every part of it, and there's so much, so many simple movements, and yet it's so effective. And as you say, when you also bring that together with emotions that we're feeling every day, it's like it's mind blowing. And I'm just going to switch off the recording now and open the floor for questioning. But thank you so much for this fascinating experience. Thank you.
You are very welcome. Love seeing everybody's faces because they're bright. Whereas, it was kind
Actually,
of like, here I am when we got here, and now they're bright, and yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you.
wonderful.